Hi, my name is Ravi and I'm a senior programmer at Real Canada. One of my favorite Canadian films of all time is Sarah Polley's Stories We Tell. This film came out in 2012 and it premiered at the Venice Film Festival. It is regarded as one of not only the best documentaries in Canadian history, but also one of the best overall films in Canadian history. This film is formally extremely impressive and innovative in the way that Sarah Polley uses reenactments to retell and sort of revise her family's history. But it's also a very personal and emotional homage to her mother and her father, and an extremely interesting meditation on memory and how our family's memory and history becomes distorted over time, and we sort of create our own versions of those memories, each and every one of us in our family, and I found that very deeply personal to me.
Happy National Canadian Film Day!
Bonne journée du cinéma canadien!
Happy Canadian National Film Day! I absolutely have so much faith in the Canadian film industry. I know as soon as this is over, we're going to be back and better than ever.
Hi, this is Rod Wilson. Just wanted to wish everyone a happy Canadian National Film Day from my home here in Toronto. We have it all right here in Canada, and you know what? We're good.
Happy National Canadian Film Day.
Happy National Canadian Film Day. Let's keep looking out for each other, Canada, and let's keep making beautiful art that inspires us.
Happy National Canadian Film Day from me and Hank.
Hi, happy National Canadian Film Day from my home in Toronto to yours. I cannot wait to make more amazing creative stuff with all of you.
Hey, I am Maddie from Maddie's Fab Avenue, and happy National Canadian Film Day. And I love to support our creators in the industry.
Happy National Canadian Film Day.
Happy National Canadian Film Day.
Hey everyone, this is Basil Panagop coming to you from Halifax, Nova Scotia, wishing you a happy National Canadian Film Day. I know we're all stuck inside, we're missing everything in our daily lives, but we've got to stay safe, stay home, and be in touch.
Happy National Canadian Film Day! Right here from my home in Toronto. Happy National Canadian Film Day! What?
Hi, I'm Sydney. I'm the Digital Communications Specialist at Real Canada. One of my favorite Canadian films is The F Word. Daniel Radcliffe stars in it, and I love how it showcases Toronto and the beautiful places you could visit. A fun fact about the film is that it features one of the best diners in Toronto, the George Street Diner.
Happy Canadian National Film Day.
Nope, that's not, that's not right. Oh, just follow my lead on this one. I know what I'm doing.
Okay. No, maybe it's Happy Film Day
Film
of
Day
Canada.
of Canada.
Happy Film Day of Canada.
Actually, it's Happy National Canadian Film Day, okay?
The moose is right. It's
Happy National Canadian Film Day.
How did you get in?
I don't know.
It's hot in here, eh?
Good evening, everyone. I hope you had a wonderful time watching the movie. I'm gonna welcome you. My name is Ali Hassan. Let me introduce myself. I'm joining you from Real Canada right now. I am very excited to be a part of this event this evening. It's a Q&A with the director of the film that you just watched. His name is Moz Mosanin. The documentary film you just watched is You Are Here, A Come From Away Story. And this is National Canadian Film Day. and we are celebrating it in style. Now, before we begin, I do want to say something very important to you. Here in Canada, we do live on land that was first lived on, taken care of by Indigenous people for thousands of years before anyone else arrived. Canada, we are able to admit that we have committed many wrongs. Many wrongs have been done to Indigenous people, and I personally encourage you to research and read about Indigenous communities in your area and to help us on this important work of reconciliation that we are all engaged in at some level. So today is National Canadian Film Day. It means that Canadians from all across the country and even across the world are Canadian films and are celebrating some of the amazing work of filmmakers here. Now, I want to get us going early on. I want to ask you, I want to hear from the audience. I want to ask you guys some questions, and in the YouTube chat, you can answer those questions. So the first thing I'm going to ask, many of you are newcomers to Canada. I want to ask, where are you originally from? You can type that into the YouTube chat right there, and I'll read out some of your answers, and in some cases I will welcome some of you, or in as many cases as I can, I will welcome you to Canada. So we have some people coming in right now. We have someone from Strathroy, Ontario, Cheryl Waters. Hi, Cheryl. That is, that is not really a newcomer to Canada, but I say hi to you. Windsor, Ontario, Heather, hello, how are you? Stan, the man, is living in Montreal. My hometown is born in New York. Welcome here. Our friend in Orillia in Canada is from Spain. We have a friend from Pine Lake, Gravenhurst. Again, that is not from away. That is right here local, but hello to you. Hello, Ali Johnson in London, Ontario. We have Carmen, who is from Venezuela. Hello, Carmen. Welcome to Canada. Welcome to this. I hope you've celebrated this in the past. I don't know if you're a very fresh newcomer. In fact, you can actually put how long you've been here and how new you are to Canada in there if you would like to as well. There is a place called Placentia, Newfoundland. I believe that because I know all the other interesting names of places in Newfoundland. So there is a Placentia, Newfoundland, and Jill Malloy is from there. Hello, Jill. Carrie Dawes from Newfoundland, originally living in Halifax now. Sharon Hanna is in Ottawa and came here 6 generations ago from Ireland. All right. You must have connected. Dirie is from Somalia. I know Dirie. Dirie is a Hassan like myself. Maybe we connect somehow, Dirie. We're gonna do a little tree. We're gonna do an ancestry.ca, Dirie and I at some point. Rothsay, New Brunswick is where Heather was born. One of my good friends, James Mullinger, lives in Rothsay right now. Great comedian in Canada. Was at Memorial University, was in Newfoundland. So a lot of Canadians with connections to Newfoundland, with connections to this movie, are here right now. Patrick from Kitchener was in the World Trade Center on 9/11 and survived. Thanks for sharing that, Patrick. Bill from Ohio, now in Montreal. Gabriel Tejero is Mexicano originally, now lives in Toronto. Carmen from Venezuela has been living in Toronto for the last 6 years. All right, so I still say welcome. Welcome anyway, even though it's been 6 years. Bonsoir de Grande Digue, New Brunswick, from our Francophone friend Mario Kudlob. I don't know if you're Francophone, Mario, but you spoke in French, and that's good enough for us. And our friend Eddie is from South Africa, living in Toronto now. Welcome to all of you. So nice to have so many of you here and celebrating this wonderful day. Now, before we get into the Q&A with Mose, I do want to say thank you to our sponsors. We don't have these events without the help of our sponsors. So let me go through them now. Telefilm Canada. Thank you to Telefilm, to Netflix, to Bell Media, to CBC, Encore Plus, the Government of Ontario, and RBC Foundation. All of our sponsors, thank you for allowing us to have a great night all together. There's a bunch of other bonsoirs and hellos, friends from Hungary and from Gander, Terre-Neuve. We have Diane joining us, Diane Davis from Gander. I am going to leave this YouTube chat for now, and I'm going to focus on the next thing that is very important to me, and that is talking to our guest. So let's welcome him right now. Special guest. Moz Mosanen is a director, writer, producer. He has created a body of popular and critically acclaimed work that includes a unique blend of drama, documentary, music, performance. This recent feature doc, which you just watched, I hope, is You Are Here, and it was released on HBO Canada in September 2018. The film won the Audience Award at Cinefest in 2018, 2 CSA awards, including Best Documentary. And if you just watched it, you know that that is very well deserved indeed. And that was in 2019. Please join me in welcoming Moz. How are you, Moz?
Wonderful, Hassan. Great to meet you. Huge fan. Huge fan.
I'm a huge fan of yours. I don't appreciate all the crying that you made me do earlier today. I thought that I would get in the same sort of headspace as the audience and watch the film in the few hours before I spoke to you. And that was a mistake because I can see that my eyes are still a little puffy. And this is, I usually look better put together. And I was actually considering putting on a little bit of makeup. And that's all yours.
Here, I've got some for you here. Let me just give some.
I wish I could be sitting down in front of you and you could be applying makeup on my eyes. Hopefully by next year, that's something we can do with each other. Well, thank you very much for being here. We have a number of questions that are going to come from people. If you have questions, please also put them in the YouTube chat, even though I won't be on the YouTube chat so that my eyes aren't everywhere on my screen. I will get those questions. They will be sent to me on Zoom by the Real Canada team. So definitely any questions you have for Moz, please get them into the chat, type them into YouTube, and they will come my way. I want to ask you this, Moz, let me tell you a little background about myself and come from away. In 2017, I had the chance for our national broadcaster CBC. There's a show, the preeminent arts and culture show called Q. For Q, I was subbing in one day, and I was very happy to find out that I was going to be able to interview, both Beverly Bass and Jen Colella, who was playing the character of Beverly Bass in Come From Away on stage. And when you're going to do an interview, they send you to go see Come From Away. So I was able to go to the show. And so first of all, I'm doing the research, and that is very emotional. Then I go to the show, and that is very emotional. Then I'm doing the interview, and the interview is emotional. And I thought I got all my emotions with respect to Come From Away out. I was like, I've been there. I've been through the trenches of emotions. I'm good. I'm not going to cry again. And of course, your documentary showed me how wrong I was. And I just, when it comes to making a film like this with so many stories, if there were close to 7,000 people, that's almost 7,000 stories that you can focus on. Mm-hmm. What was that work like? I specifically, I wanted to know how big this movie was and what you had to edit it down to get an 1.5 hour long documentary.
A good question, actually. One of the things that really helped me in this documentary, and it very happens in any other film, is that I knew how it was going to end. I knew that the film was going to end when all of the Newfoundlanders whose lives inspired the musical were going to go to New York, and they're going to attend opening night, and they were all going to walk out with the cast to ring the bows and take a bow. So each actor was beside the real Newfoundlander that they were portraying. So I knew that was going to happen. Yeah. And really for me, then I just worked backwards from there, and I know a lot of people know this, but a lot of people don't, is that documentaries really have to be scripted before you go into production. Just because you have to tell people what you want to do so they can give you $1 million to go ahead and do it, So really the film was scripted. I had a 25-page treatment that was written as part of the submission to get the film financed. And so the film, I had a very clear idea of the stories, how it was going to start, the stories that we're going to deal with, and how it was going to end. So that made the job really, really easier. And the fact that we were focusing on the actual characters that Come From Away was based on, narrowed it down for us to a very group of like 12, 14, 15 people.
Right, and you had already interviewed them prior to mapping out the film, or you just knew they'd be able to talk?
No. We want to do this properly, because it was a really important project for me and for the producer, Peter Gentile, and Bill Haas, our executive producer. So Peter and I actually went on a trip to Newfoundland to introduce ourselves to the community and to let them know what we're doing. And really, when you're making a documentary, if you don't have people's trust in you, if you don't have their participation and their belief that you're doing this for the right reasons, you have nothing. Because then when you talk to people, you interview them, it's all going to come in the wash. It's just not going to be there. So we really wanted to go there. And we spent a number of days with a lot of people, Beulah and Diane and Bonnie and Claude and everybody. So we just introduced ourselves. We talked about the film, what we wanted to do, and by the end of it, I think they give us the seal of approval that we'd like to do this. So then from there we went to New York, and we actually shot the last part of the film first, the opening of the show on Broadway. And then 4 months later, we went to Newfoundland for a whole month to do most of the body of the shooting of the film, where, as you see, about 80% of the film was shot then.
Well, when you talked about the beginning of the film, it is you're at Ground Zero in New York City. And Ground Zero really is that sort of that hole in the ground, but with all the names of the people who perished that day. And it was like, as I said to you, I thought my crying was done. I was almost getting emotional right in that moment, because I've been there to Ground Zero, and I made the mistake. And nobody needs to message me privately and tell me I'm a bad parent. I already know that. Thank you very much. But I went with my daughters and then my son, who was like 3 at the time. And so he had some questions. What is this? What is this? And I'm trying to explain it to a 3-year-old that, what terrorism is and what happened and who these people are and what these names are. And I'm trying to do it without going too far in. But then that night in New York, we're in our hotel and he's crying in the middle of the night. And I went to him, I said, "What's wrong?" And he goes, I'm worried that the terrorists will come and get us as well. And I was like, no. And I comfort him and I comfort him and I comfort him. And then he goes to sleep. And then for the next 2 hours, I was awake going, man, I wonder if the terrorists are going to come and get, I messed with my own mind also. But it was like a really powerful moment for me, even just to see what Ground Zero is like. So the way you bookend this film, the beginning and the end, even though it was shot at the same time, is very, very powerful. I thought it was a great use of...
No, it's funny you should mention because we did a location scout of New York as well when we went to Ground Zero, and of course I had never experienced it, and my first experience was during a work session. We were actually doing this location scout, and I was overwhelmed. I had to leave the plaza. I was just a basket case, I just wasn't aware of the way it was going to hit me, and especially the whole idea of the waterfall coming down into the pool and then going into this black hole, and of course the names around it. It's such an incredible work of art, I think one of the greatest civic creations produced in the city. But so I know exactly what you're talking about. I was a basket. I finished, I think, just a half a bottle of scotch that night. So
yeah.
Okay, the whole thing. I did the whole thing. Okay.
Don't hold back. You tell us everything.
You got me open here.
I'm going to ask some of the questions that have come in from YouTube right now. Sadia is saying that she cried the whole way through and loved it and would like to see it again, share it, and also own it. So can you let her, and I'm sure many people are asking the exact same thing, would you let us know where we could purchase this documentary from?
Absolutely. We're the producer Bill and executive producer Bill House and the producer Bill Gentili, they're really working on the global release right now, and concurrent with that will be the DVD, I hope. So everything's in progress right now. Everything's in progress. So is it Fazia?
Sadia.
Sadia, if you can just reach out to me on Facebook, and then I will have you with me at that point, and then I'll be updating the news as we go along.
Great.
Hopefully it'll happen soon.
Sure. And by the way, anybody else who has questions for Moz about the film, about filmmaking in general, whatever it is that inspired you about this film, absolutely now is your time. So make sure you put your questions in the YouTube chat, and they will find their way to me. Now, the next question, Catherine is asking, where did you get the footage from inside the grounded airplane? Did somebody have a video camera?
Yeah, there was two streams. One was a lot of the footage came from Kevin Turf, who was on the two Kevins, who were on the Air France flight. And Kevin documented everything meticulously. They were in the plane when after the plane landed. They were on the plane for about 22 hours, I believe, before they were able to get off. So he documented the whole thing and getting off the plane. And so a lot of that footage, actually, Kevin was very kind enough to give us. But also, we found an extraordinary amount of things from news footage that was about 9/11 and Gander in particular. And what was happening was that we would look into an item by ZDF in France or in Germany or TF1 in France, and they covered it. A lot of the global media covered 9/11, but some of them also actually I managed to get because they came back to Europe. A lot of them had these home movies, which they put into these news items from Europe, and that's how we found them actually. But then to try to find who they belong to and trying to get the rights was these gray hairs actually are from that actually. Trying to find
I bet. Just waiting for any news to come back.
Yeah.
Another question we have is about the challenge and what was the biggest challenge in covering a story that had so many different narratives and involved so many different people. And I think I asked you something to that effect. How did you choose what to include or exclude? I think, if I'm not mistaken, you said you sort of followed the model of the Broadway show or of the stage show.
Not really, no, I wouldn't say, because the film really is not about the Broadway show at all.
I mean the characters that the show focused.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I knew. Yeah, because I knew how the film was going to end on stage with the real characters joining their actor counterparts on stage. So knowing who the characters were ahead, that's why I meant working backwards. So that made the job a lot easier, of course. But there were some amazing things. When we went to Newfoundland in Gander, it was just one of the most extraordinary experiences of my life. I thought we were there to shoot a film. I'd never in my mind that I think we'd be the recipients of the same kind of generosity and kindness that the plane people were. So when we got there, a lot of people just came forward, and volunteered. I was the janitor at the Gander Academy. I was the airport traffic control person. So a lot of people came forward that way, and some of it were included, and so a lot of us at times we weren't able to include it. But Mikey Lalonde, who was our associate, ended up creating this beautiful series of short videos of a lot of the scenes that got cut out. and they're on the You Are Here website, to see what we got cut out. But it was actually, I had a very good idea going to the film as to how it was going to start and where it was going to go.
Yeah. The mayor, Claude, said, they arrived as strangers, these people, and then within a day or two, they became friends. And then when they left, it was family. And another one of the residents of Gander, the Ganderite, says it was very lonely afterwards. So when you and your producer show up, I think it's a connection to this wonderful, exciting time. And so it kind of, even though it is so amazing, I think it's not so surprising that they would show you the same love, because you're a little bit of a lifeline to a wonderful time.
That's such an interesting point, Ali. That's a really, really interesting point. Wow. I hadn't thought about it, but I guess you're right. One of the things that happened, just to follow up with what you're saying here, on the third day, Claude Elliott, who at the time was the mayor of Gander, came up to us and said, how many people on your crew? And I said, well, there's 9 of us. And he goes, that many. And I said, why? He said, well, I want to have you over for dinner. I said, what? Like 9 of us? We could, yeah, come over for dinner. So he invited all 9 of us, all the 9 members of our crew, to his house. And of course, Beulah was a co-host as well. And they made us a very traditional jigs dinner that night for 9 of us. And then Mayor Flynn of near Appleton heard about this and said, well, if he's doing it, I'm going to have the crew over to my house. So 2 days later, we were at his house. Dermot and Diane Flynn in Appleton. They made us a traditional fish dinner.
Yeah.
And it was just like that. It was just every time. And another thing that was one of my favorite moments of all time is I was coming down the stairs of the hotel one morning, and the lady behind the reception area turns to me and said, have a nice time at the Legion. And I said, how do you know we're going to be at the Legion? And she said, well, it's in the paper. So I said, why are we in the paper? Well, because you're filming here in Gander. But then I realized that it wasn't because we were a newsworthy item. It was actually in the paper to let people know where we're going to be. So whoever was in the same vicinity as us would watch out for us.
Okay.
Would keep an eye out to see in case we needed something or we were running into trouble. So it was just like that. I was quite changed by the whole experience, and I get emotional talking about it still. It was quite extraordinary.
It strikes me as you talk about this how, this is a message that I've long championed, that we have more similarities than we do differences. People focus on differences, but you come from a Persian background. I come from a Pakistani background. I'm sure you've experienced this too, where one of your aunts feeds you, and then the other aunt is like, what did they feed you? Oh, they fed you this, then I'm going to feed you this. And it's like, even the same thing is happening in Gander, where the mayor finds out, oh, he had you, then we're going to have you over. And we'll have this, competition of generosity and things like that. And it's all comes from such a beautiful place.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we associate that with our ethnic background, but
it's very true. It's very true. Because I'm a Persian Jew, and we're very hospitable people, and someone stays over, we give up our beds, and we sleep on the floor, and we put whatever food we got out for everybody. So I kind of was like a little bit going home when I went to Newfoundland. It was like, I recognize these people. They're kind of as
that's it.
Self-effacing or self-sacrificing as we are, So. Huge shout out to the people of Newfoundland tonight. I think a lot of them are, maybe tuning in right now.
Yeah, they are. Well, based on what I saw in the YouTube, if they're not in Newfoundland now, they have lived there, or they were from there originally.
Yeah.
More questions that are coming in. This is from Cinnamon Roots. Might be their real name, maybe not, but Cinnamon Roots asked, was there a specific moment when you knew that you needed to make this film?
Wow. That's such an interesting question, and I'm going to be honest with you. Thank you for asking. Whoever asked that question, I hesitate to answer this question because, it could be a little tricky sometimes, no matter where you are in the country. But there was actually a moment where in the 2016, early 2016, a very strange and toxic political discourse was starting to happen. Certain people were suggesting Muslims should be banned, walls should be put up. And there was this hateful discourse that was being introduced for the first time. And I watched in horror, as did so many people, as it seemed to be growing. And it seemed to sort of spread by wildfire. And it started happening in Canada as well in some odd ways. So, you know, I was very, I felt helpless. And I said, well, you know, what can I do? What can I do to kind of say, this is not really who we are? You know, we're actually, our very nature is actually something else altogether. And You Are Here came along, you know, and the beautiful people of Newfoundland came along, and Come From Away came along. And I thought, okay, this is something I can do. This is something I can contribute to the discussion that this is not who we are. This is something I can work on that will counteract this, you know? And so that was actually a huge, huge thing at the time for me. You know, it was really, it was my way of trying to figure out how I can make a change here, you know?
I really, I love the question, but I love that answer because, you know, Moz, I also was in a situation where I had to explain to my 9-year-old daughter at the time why there were suggestions that Muslims should have a registry and everybody, you know what I mean? I mean, that's not a conversation you want to have with a child.
No.
But I also remember after 9/11, I used to be a caterer. And I remember feeling so awful for the country of Afghanistan, who felt, you know, it felt like people, innocent people were dying regularly as justice was being sought, you know, and people in Afghanistan were paying the price. So I started as a caterer, I started making Afghani naan pizza, because Afghani naan is, you know, it's this.
I know.
You know, coated olive oil, crispy at the bottom,
Delicious.
caramelized onions and bulgur feta and cherry tomatoes. And people be like, what is this? And I'd be like, it's Afghani naan pizza. It doesn't even exist, but I was making my own version just so the words Afghanistan would have some positive PR. So I understand this compulsion to be like, let me do one small thing. Now your thing was bigger than my thing. I'm
Not at all. No, not at all. No.
Pizza, but I understand that compulsion to like, let's, if you can do something good and positive to counter some negative tide that's coming, you know, it's great to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Another question that's come in, Kevin was asking, what was the most difficult part in creating this film for you? You already mentioned the gray hairs that in chasing, you know, rights for these videos that you had found, but were there other difficult parts in creating this film that stick out to you?
You know, yeah, when you make a documentary on a location far from home, you know, sure, it's always, you know, there's some physical challenges, things like that. But really, we were embraced in so warmly, you know, in Newfoundland, and that I can't really say it was a hard time. What actually was the hardest thing for me was this fear that I would not get it right, you know, that I would not do the people of Gander or Newfoundland justice. Also, I was dealing with 9/11, you know, I really didn't want to make 9/11, or we as filmmakers, all of us who worked on the film, didn't want to make it an exploitive enterprise, you know, to use 9/11 as a way of sensationalizing the whole thing and, you know, making fake drama out of the whole thing. So I was really, really cautious of those things. My fears were there. The hardest part was trying to sort of, you know, figure out what the cliff was and not to go over that. You know, we had wonderful editors, like Kathy Galkin edited the picture, and of course producers were very involved in the production as well. So So it was that was the thing for me. It was the hardest thing, was to do justice to the subject matter and not to be disrespectful in any way, or to abuse it, to abuse these sacred, iconic moments in our history.
Well, the next question is related in a way. Brian Spector is asking, were you surprised to find how close the Newfoundlanders that come from a ways, the Broadway cast, the producers, investors had all become by the time that the Broadway opened? And it speaks a little bit to what you were saying about getting it right, because it's like it was so good and precious and beautiful, and these people were all so close, and they were clearly part of something that was organically wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And so that added to your challenges. But were you surprised to find out how close they were?
No, because you know, I mean, I just know from my own experience, when you go through an experience, you know, of being in a crisis somewhere, even if, like, you know, you're in an airport and your flight's been delayed for 3 days, you know, you form really personal relationships with people, you know, and but also I had a good sense of that. I had a good sense that that the most of the plane people had formed long-lasting relationships with the Newfoundlanders during the 5 days that they were being hosted. You know, and again, that was tricky too, you know, so that, you know, you had to treat those relationships respectfully as well, not just sort of inquire about, you know, trying to push them and sort of go for more of a sensational effect, you know, about, oh yes, it was death and dying and Christ and all that. Yeah, it was, you didn't have to touch that because it was so embedded in everything that the story represented.
Sure. Amalis is asking, have you heard of any similar stories happening elsewhere other than Gander? And I find that's a very interesting question, because Gander really got the story, but there must have been other Ganders as well.
Yes, there was. You know, the people of St. John's, of course, you know, were incredible. There were certain stories in Halifax. The planes landed all over, in Toronto, Montreal, you know. But what I'd like to point out to the person who asked that wonderful question is that while these other cities had huge infrastructures, huge airports and hotels and ambulances and, you know, restaurants, you know, Gander had none of that infrastructure. You know, they had 15 taxis, you know, at the time the planes landed, 8,000, 7,000 people landed, you know, so it was not like they didn't have, you know, maybe a few restaurants here and there, but really it was the people of the province who cooked the food, who went into their homes and pulled the sheets and pillowcases and blankets out of their closets, brought them to the thing, you know. So it was that. It was just like, imagine a small town, suddenly, a small town of 9,000 hosting 7,000 unwanted guests, like just sudden guests. And you have nothing except what's in your household to provide for them. That's what I think made the Newfoundland story so much more, for me, potent, you know.
Yeah, sure. And that's why I bring up the Persians and the Pakistanis, because from that background, you grow up with they give you the clothes off your back mentality, right?
Yeah, no, it's funny when anybody who listen, there's a distant cousin of my father used to come and from Toronto or something, and my parents would vacate their bedroom and say, no, you sleep here, we'll sleep on the living room floor or whatever. Not living floor, we had a basement bedroom, but
yeah.
But yeah, so it's very much like that, yeah.
I remember my cousin, maybe, I don't know, 13, 14 years old, biking through the Lahore heat to bring me a gift, and it was shaving cream. He knew shaving cream is available in Canada, but it was just this desire to give something. You know, he was 13, he barely had any money, probably, you know, lower middle class family, but he wanted to give his cousin something. And you always remember these things.
No, I know.
We have a few more questions. One was the question by Gabriel, which was, how long did it take you to make this film? I don't think I got that sense either.
Yeah, shooting took place over, I think, well, we had like the New York segment, and then we had the Newfoundland segment. So between 5 and 6 weeks of shooting altogether, but the film almost took a year to edit. You know.
Okay.
You know, it was quite complicated. You know, quite just from a whole host of reasons. You know, just trying to make a very clear and beautiful narrative. There's sometimes the technical issues that, you know, getting the footage that we really needed, you know, the archival stuff, the home movies, the newsreel photographs, all those things, you know, took a long time to sort out.
I bet. I wanted to let you know the Real Canada team has let me know that Diane and Nick from You Are Here are in the audience watching.
Oh my God. Amazing. Are they watching?
They are watching. They are watching.
Oh.
And
just a big shout out. Hello, Nick. Hello, Diane. Miss you lots.
And
Nick and Diane was the couple that fell in love, met, and fell in love in Gambo, you know, the small town just outside of.
Yeah, if that doesn't ring a bell to you, if you watch the film, the gentleman who called himself Diane's toy boy, perhaps you'll remember them a little better there. But yeah, Diane and Nick, it's.
I'm so thrilled because they're in Texas, and then a lot of Americans couldn't sign on to this thing tonight. But I'm glad they did. That's great.
Yeah, well, resourceful, I guess. They found a way. Final question for you from the audience, which I think is the most appropriate. Given that you've talked about the hospitality of Ganderites and Newfoundlanders in general, did you kiss a cod? Were you obliged to, and did you?
Yes. Yes, the whole ceremony is called being screeched in. And you lined up on chairs, and you have to wear a sailor's hat, and then there were certain pieces of food like bologna and day-old bread, and it's a big ceremony you have to go through, and it climaxes with them bringing a frozen cod, and you have to kiss the cod on the mouth. And I can tell you, I did it and I survived. But I tell you something, the thing that really was actually more harder, the kissing the cod, you know, I've kissed certain people in my past that felt that way, you know. But the one thing that was really hard was the capelin, eating the capelin. The capelin is a very long, kind of silvery fish, looked like a pencil.
Okay.
And, yeah. And that taste I will never forget to my dying day.
You're not remembering it
I
fondly.
didn't. What's that?
Not remembering it fondly by the sounds of it.
Well, it's very unique taste. Because it's almost raw. Because you know they take it and they dry it in the sun, and when it's sort of chewy, then you eat it. You know, but it was something I thought I was never going to survive that. But the cod was fine. The cod was easy in comparison.
Yeah, yeah. Mose, thank you so much for taking the time to.
Oh, my pleasure. It was great to meet you, Ali. I'm a huge fan, and
great to meet you as well.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that that this film has gotten the recognition that it really so richly deserves.
Thank you so much. And again, this really wouldn't have happened without the people of Newfoundland, you know, who opened up their hearts and homes to us. And of course, from the people who created Come From Away, David Hine and Irene Sankoff, and the Junkyard people, the company that produced the show. So thank you to all of them. And of course, the Plain people as well, you know, who were incredibly generous with their stories.
Yeah. Well, thank you to all of you. Thank you, Mose. Thank you to Real Canada. You Are Here, a Come From Away story, as Mose has mentioned, will hopefully be available soon enough. With you know, God willing, this year it'll be available for purchase. Thank you to the audience for giving your questions for Mose. And finally, I want to thank the Institute for Canadian Citizenship that promoted and organized this event with us. And thank you to all of you. If you like the event tonight, don't forget to post about it on social media. You can use the hashtag #CanFilmDay. And if you want to watch more movies for free tonight or tomorrow, we're going 2 days of Canadian Film Day. It's days now. You can head to canadianfilmday.ca to see everything that is available for free to you. Thank you again. I'm Ali Hassan. Have a absolutely wonderful night.